welcome back to Joe's Metal Mancave vlog. Today I wanted to talk about a recent box set I got from the Norwegian black metal band who are known as Manes, or maybe it's also pronounced Manes, I guess I don't really know. But the box set in question here comes from Darkness Shall Rise Productions, and it is called Ihjelbrent Skatt, and it is a 4-tape box set which gathers together all of the old, relevant, and black metal years of Manes' career. If you're not familiar with Manes, they're one of the oldest Norwegian black metal bands, actually, having originally formed back in the 91-92 period under the name of Periphery, and then briefly as Obscural, and then later on as Manes. And interestingly, right around the same time, another band, another part of Norway formed with the same name, so there seems to be some bit of confusion, but yeah, this is the Manes that continued on throughout the 90s and into the 2000s. So from 93 to 95 they issued 3 demo tapes, and later on their first album under blodraud maane, which is sort of a cult classic. It's generally overlooked in the grand scheme of things, and it's a bit of a shame because it's an extremely unique and special black metal album that doesn't sound like anything else I've ever heard. Generalizing, people like to call it like symphonic black metal, but that's doing it a severe injustice because it's definitely way more than that. It's its own thing that blends together cold, raw black metal with highly atmospheric synths, ambient parts, dungeon synth characteristics, and even something that's very slow and plodding, kind of doom metal-ish or funeral doom in its character. It's very interesting. For years I had wanted to hear these demos, and it's not so much that it was untouchable to get them. Back in like 2005 or 2006, Kursk Productions from Greece had re-released a compilation, and I've seen it typically go on Discogs for like $30-$40, but then the problem was that it was always from international sellers, so then you started adding like $10-$15 for shipping, and then you're getting into that like $50 range, and that's kind of a lot for a single CD, I guess. And I'm a bargain hunter, you know, through and through when it comes to this kind of stuff. Well, sort of. So, yeah, I put it off for all these years. But yeah, I originally heard that debut album way back in the early days when I first got into black metal. I remember liking it back then, but then for reasons I don't exactly remember selling it, I guess I just didn't fully appreciate it. And it wasn't until some years later that I rebought the reissue, which I have right here, which was released by Hammerheart Records, and I absolutely loved it. I couldn't believe I got rid of that old original pressing. So, anyway, Manes is a peculiar band because after they went through their 90s black metal period, they went in a very experimental electronic, jazz, and almost, I don't know, popish direction, I guess. I feel like they took a cue from Oliver and their weird electronic meanderings and tried to do it themselves, but whereas I actually really like most of the post black metal career of Oliver and their various really eccentric recordings, I've tried listening to the main stuff that was from 2003 onward, and I think it's hopelessly boring, but maybe I'll return to it someday, I don't know. But anyway, this box set gathers together all of that old and relevant black metal stuff, which would be from the period of 1993 until 99. And you get quite a few really cool things in this box set. But before we get into that, Manes was always a 2-piece band. It was basically the project of a guy named Sarunas, whose real name was Torhelgiski, and another guy named Sargatanis, who real name was Håvard Jonsson. 2-piece band, yeah, and throughout the 90s they carried on, but after I got this box set, I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about the band. That, for example, that the band was lots of times throughout the 90s on hold or even kind of broken up, and this was because Torhelgiski, a birth of his son obviously delayed things. He had some medical conditions of his own, and it seems if I'm reading into things correctly, he kind of generally lost interest in black metal as the 90s progressed, which is interesting because, I mean, 90s black metal, man, I mean, how could you lose interest right when you're in the center of all of it too? But crazy, I guess, but that's what happened. And so then, yeah, I guess also because of some delays with trying to find the label and stuff like that, and all that frustration, it kind of distanced him from black metal in a lot of ways. And it just, yeah, it wasn't until 1999 when Under ein blodraud maane was finally released. And I don't really know what the reception of this album was back then, but like I said, a very, very unique album. And, well, as you can see now as I'm starting to pull this stuff out here, you get, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but you get all of the band's 3 demos they recorded from 93, 95, plus, of course, the debut album. And it's been very interesting going back and hearing all of this stuff, because there's lots of stuff that I hadn't really expected to be in their music, but within the music, you know, I mean, you know, their style is unique as it was, but then going back to these demos, I found there was some parts where they used clean vocals, or there was pure ambient or dungeon synth moments in the music. Very interesting, very, just really interesting, and just not like anything else I've ever really heard, which makes them really cool. So yeah, also in this box set, then you get their 3 demos. You get Maane's Nuts, if I'm saying that right. Their second demo, Nida Stillheten, and Till Kongens Grav de Dode Vender. How am I doing, Roger? If you're watching this, you can make fun of me later on, right? So basically with the demos, I'm assuming this is sort of a recreation of those demos as they were back when they were originally released. Pretty simple layouts, of course, because the original ones were probably just photocopied and, you know, printed at the local printers, which was certainly the very common thing to do back in those early days of the metal underground and Norwegian black metal in general. Yeah. I think the only thing that's, you know, obviously different here is that they have, you know, real tape printing on there, whereas the original ones were probably, you know, just blank tapes that they dubbed for people that ordered the demo, I would guess. And, yeah, man, so the last one. Whoa, don't let that fall there, man. And then, yeah, this one has that kind of common painting from the 19th century. I can't remember exactly who did it, but it's certainly been used by its fair share of black metal and doom metal, death metal bands over the years. Yeah. So very, very cool. So that's the music side of it. And as I said, I never heard any of these demos going into this box. That's ultimately why I pulled the trigger on this. Had I bought that compilation CD 6 months ago, I would not have done it. But temptation over the years of seeing these DSR boxes, and I mean, I think the first one they did was the Burzum one, and I mean, that was like $300, $400 nearly. And I was tempted, but I was like, well, I have all the old albums on CD, so is there any point to this? Well, after the True Norwegian Black Cult channel uploaded a video showing all of it a few months ago, or a month or so ago, I was like, damn it, I fucked that up. So, yeah. So yeah, in addition to that, you get this patch, which I guess I probably won't sew onto anything, but still very cool. And then, this is one of the coolest parts of this, is this long sleeve t-shirt, which a friend of mine who's been into this stuff much longer than I am, he's about 6 or 7 years older than me, he says he's never seen a Maine shirt before, and this was just, very fucking cool. And I'm sure a lot of people that order this kind of stuff, they ultimately just stuff it all in the box and stuff like that and forget about it. That's not the case with me. I ordered this box set 100% to listen to it and enjoy everything that comes with it, which, again, I just don't think a lot of people do. They order it just to have it, for that collection, just to say they have it. Got a pin here, which, again, maybe will end up on one of my jackets. I don't know. Yeah, like I want to put it on stuff, but at the same time, it's like if I lose it, then, whatever. Patch, official patch. Maybe fucking, unofficial patches they're out there of underground black metal and what have you bands, right? Then you get this official, I guess, what we call it, certificate of authenticity. Can't pronounce that word, but you know what I'm saying. Got a picture of the band in the back, and of course it's signed by both members. Very cool. Then 2 posters, which very fucking cool here. Old school folds of them, decked out in corpse paint, and another of the demo covers there on that one. And then on this one here, have another same artwork from the box here. And then another classic photo of one of the members. But no, there's more still. It keeps on going. We get a lot more stuff with this box set, and that's one of the reasons why I ended up pulling the trigger on this box set. I think altogether the box set was 60 euros, which actually wasn't that bad considering. I thought it'd be a lot more, because like the Emperor into the Section one were a lot more, of course, but I guess you got a lot more music and stuff involved, so I probably went. So then we have a bunch of advertisements here that came with it. Pretty cool. For other tapes, which will probably tempt me at some point. God. Yeah. I'm a tape guy now, what can I say? Some cool stuff to hang on the wall too, because it's not going to serve much purpose sitting in the box until the end of time, right? Venom. Catatonian, that one I actually really want to check out because of the re-recordings of the old demo tracks and stuff like that. Reverend Bazaar. Mayhem one here. Got all that stuff, of course, on CD, no need for that. And here we got a Demo Warrior one. I mean, it's cool to re-releasing some of this stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff they re-release is out of print and hard to get stuff. That's why I've taken a keen interest in tapes at this point, because it's just getting the sounds in my ears is in my collection, you know. People, I mean, I say it again, you know, people buy stuff like this just to have multiple copies, just to brag on YouTube or Instagram, and I think that's ridiculous, but I don't know, I guess I just don't have the same one again. And then, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, we have this book here, which is basically just a collection of lots of old reviews and interview snippets and just basically anything you could possibly think of related to old memes. Lots of pictures again here. Interviews, reviews, so much cool stuff. I mean, this is definitely, if you're a fan of blodraud maane, this is definitely for you, because you get everything related to that album and the demos and everything that you could possibly hope for. I think the only downside to this is that there's none of the tracks from the earlier band Peripheral are included, though it seems through this book it seems to indicate that Peripheral may not actually have been the same band. It was sort of just a band that Sarunas and Sarkatanis were just involved with, but tell out the Metal Archive to see if they care. Yeah, so lots of pictures here. I will note that when I ordered this right after it came out, which was mid-October, I want to say, and it took roughly about 5 weeks to arrive here, and I don't really know why. But my theory is that the guy that runs DSR does it all himself. He has no one to help package orders, and he just does them in the order he receives them, so it's as simple as that. And then you got to figure in international shipping, of course, and it becomes a timely thing. But the reason why it's frustrating is because it costed $46 to ship this to me. Not just for the box, but it seems like anything you order from DSR has a standard shipping rate of $46. So if you went on there and were just like, oh, I'm just going to order this one tape, you get fucked. So unless you live in Europe, I'm imagining quite a bit cheaper because, no international shipping involved there. But still, I imagine it's not cheap because shipping in general these days, even like in the United States, I could send a package to fucking Chicago and it still costs like $8. It's absurd these days. I'm not a fan. But that's also the reason why I stopped selling stuff on eBay and Discogs, because it just, you can't justify those shipping costs anymore. It's ridiculous. So yeah, and there's one more thing I gotta show. Alright, so one more thing to show from this box set, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but I got the Die Hard version, which was limited to just 99 copies, yeah. The Die Hard version comes with the long sleeve t-shirt and this book I'm about to show. The box set in general is limited to just 500 copies, but I always thought like these Die Hard versions sold out really quickly, so I was surprised that when I kind of sat on it for a little bit, it wasn't like instantly sold out, and then about like 3 weeks, maybe a month after it was already out, a buddy of mine, he picked it up too, and I was like, okay, I guess it just kind of puts into perspective how underground this band really was. So last item to show it, you get a recreation of a Stigma Diabolicum zine, which was a zine that Tord Helge Ski did from 1990 to 93. It's subtitled The Incomplete Archives. Stigma Diabolicum, of course, was named after the band Stigma Diabolicum, which in like 92 or 93 became known as Thorns, and I guess most people know Thorns. Tor, he had gotten Snorri's blessing to use the name for the zine, and yeah, I guess the rest is kind of history there. But yeah, cool name for not, I mean, I honestly wish Thorns would have kept this name. It's way cooler, but so I guess you get basically the majority of this scene from back in the day. It says incomplete because I noticed some pages where there's just like, there's text missing, and there's, I guess there's like holes in it, and I'm assuming it's because no one had like the old zines like intact and like mint condition, and everything for this was scanned by Finn Håkon Radlin, of course, who a lot of people of course know from the True Mayhem collection on Instagram and Facebook. I guess most people know him, but what we have here is a classic death and thrash metal zine, basically. And then, but then you get to the third and last issue, you start to touch upon, of course, some black metal, like Rotting Christ and Mayhem and Dark Throne are featured and stuff like that, and Mortal, of course. He was definitely there at the beginning to kind of capture the essence of the Norwegian black metal scene, but he gave up on it, obviously, but, you know, music became more important than doing a zine after a while, which is cool. Well, yeah, obviously that's why we're here talking about this, right? Yeah. So, the zine itself is, as I said, very much focused on thrash and death metal. And it's pretty good for what it is. I've definitely seen other old zines from back in the day that are way cooler, but nevertheless, this is one of the early, Norwegian zines that focused on this kind of stuff, and it's very cool to have this. I mean, I certainly haven't read every little bit of this or anything like that, but it's, you know, if you've ever seen any old zines from the 90s, I guess, you kind of know what to expect. I thought it was kind of interesting too, like, there's a lot of like pencil marks and stuff like this where, I guess, I don't really know if that Finn Håkon Radlin guy, if he was into all this stuff way back in the day, or what, or just people give him all that stuff. I don't really know. I always wondered about that guy, why people just give him like guitars and stuff like that. Like, who the hell like just gives a dude like their guitar? Like, that's, yeah, okay. The True Mayhem collection, indeed. Yeah. But yeah, classic. I mean, through and through, just, you know, old school 90s zine. It's nothing that I would consider to be essential, and like I said, I think this was only part of the Die Hard version, but if I'm wrong, well, someone can correct me on that. But nevertheless, interesting digging through that and just seeing all the old interviews, and you know, I think, like, thinking back to my old zine, like, you know, like, it's interesting because, like, in all these old 90s zines, like, they'd always end a review by, like, putting the band's address and stuff like that, and, like, when I did my zine years later in the early 2000s, I would end my reviews by putting web addresses, MySpace pages, and email addresses. So I guess it's just like a generation thing or something like that, you know, and things change, but in a way they kind of stayed the same, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much the mains box set. Ihjelbrent Skatt. Hope I pronounced that right. But yeah, very, very cool. If you were a fan of this band, definitely consider getting a copy of this. Or if nothing else, hunt down the reissue of blodraud maane. Very unique album that doesn't quite get the love it deserves, and that's really a shame because it's a fantastic, phenomenal album that, at least in my opinion, does not sound like any other black metal band out there. Probably the closest thing I could compare it to is, it sounds like a more fleshed out and realized version of like the old Thorns demos. That's probably the best thing I can compare it to, but other than that, there's just nothing else that immediately pops to my mind. But yeah, definitely hunt it down. You'll definitely see me wearing this long sleeve in future videos and all that kind of stuff. And other than that, hope you enjoyed this video. Check out Mains if you haven't already. This is essential stuff, in my opinion, to the evolution of Norwegian black metal. Or if you just want to hear a really, really unique band, well, this is the band to go with. So, cheers to you all. Thanks for watching Joe's Metal Mancave, and I'll see you next time.